of obviously finishing first place Formula One.
Yeah, I mean, with a McLaren, you can definitely do that.
For the team championship, I mean, they're actually
Well, not if
really
you're
close right now.
Well, not if I'm driving it, but like...
You know what if we ever had a collab, we actually like went to their headquarters and you got to drive a McLaren without a driver's license?
I don't think they will let them.
That's gonna be very expensive.
Veto it.
That would be a big mistake from me.
A big mistake from them. Let you drive that one, to be fair, yeah. But speaking of mistakes, hope we're not going to see any out of these teams as we do head into Erangel. You can see the teams warming up and getting ready to go. And you did mention a couple of teams in particular, but let's maybe focus on a couple individually and looking to see what they do here. Because I feel like this first Erangel is going to be the true sign of how these teams are prepared for this event.
I think that I have to bring it back to Falcons, Rob.
Yep.
I like the way they drop it. They have two drop locations. They go typically for Milta split or they go for Novo. And sometimes you see this weird thing happening, Seven, where they have a 2-2 split, two players in the area near Gatka Fields on the west, and two players in Novo. And they actually are quite successful in that rotation, able to regroup without losing any players, which that is risky, but it works out. So I think that we might expect to see that once again on this first Erangel.
For Falcons, but the biggest question mark for me is going to be if that team does end up being in the center of the circle, can they keep all their 4 players alive? It's something that they struggle a lot with throughout league stage, and I'm hoping that now with the performance that they have here, not only are they going to have the confidence, not only are they going to be aggressive as well, because it has worked out so well in that first Sandhawk, and this is a team that can definitely carry that momentum, but I'm also going to be looking at team spirit. Like, we didn't really get a chance to talk about them that much at the beginning of the show, but Kitsune is so experienced. Kitsune really wants this PMGC title, and for them, the way that they've been able to just change the whole way that they play, they are a lot faster. The quick rotations, smart rotations, they don't take a long time anymore. If they see an opening, they go for it, and that's something that a lot of teams tend to struggle with.
And I wonder how Kitsune in particular was able to adapt to that. Thinking back to G Gladiators, the rotations were always slow.
Yes.
And you obviously have the off-angle player, but now you have Nomi, who's just on a completely different level within this roster, who can play it more successfully. It's such a hard change in mentality, I think, for Kitsune to get around to having to in-game lead.
Just to give you a quick image here, it's like if you had an MG3 and you never fired it, But here, they are trying to fire it as much as possible, so yeah, the quick rotates of Team Spirit are looking fantastic, and clearly this is the best this team has ever looked in like 3 years now, it feels like.
I mean, Kitsune has come close to taking that trophy. Maybe this will be the year, but there's still a lot of other teams looking to battle their way towards the top to lift the trophy for themselves and maybe get some cool gold jackets, which I think maybe we might try to steal if we can, because those look fantastic. Those actually, it's a normal jacket for you. More of a tank top for me, but it is time to head into our first Erangel of the day. Let's throw it back to our commentators with John, Allen, and Blake.
Into Erangel we go for the first time to the grassy pastures. The plain path will take us over once more from Georgia Pole down to Sosnovka military base. It's match 2. It's time to get stuck in. Super Western plane path actually is a difficult one to play off the back of this, but teams have started to already gather some of those points on board already, and Falcons are doing well. To start things off as well for Falcons strong is a big deal for that team. That team runs off the back of momentum. When you get a lot of points day 1, it just makes your life so much easier going into day 2 and day 3.
Getting a buffer already sorted out for yourself, especially in a tournament like this, it is so beneficial because you're looking for that first place. You're not looking for second and third anymore to get that direct invite. You're already here.
You've already made it all the way. You're on the doorstep. It's just a question of turning the key. And could we see a back-to-back Mongolian world champion here at the PMGC? We're denied that back-to-back performance from IHC. They didn't quite make it, unfortunately, but we do still have 2 representatives from the region to try and duke it out with the rest of them, 4MV, and of course the Falcons, who we've been talking about for the last little while. We'll see if they're able to put up the numbers when it matters. The western plane path proving to be troublesome here, maybe on the military island. Taking a look down on the south side, Blank, you've got Thunder Talk, you've got 4MV, you've got Na'Vi as well, all the way on that south edge. Going to be competing for vehicles, potential for a little bit of trouble as the circle displays the northwest side.
Yeah, an interesting one as well, considering the fact that I think we assumed they would be Falcons as well as 4MV duking it out down towards Sosnovka. In fact, it's Thunder Talks as well as Na'Vi to join alongside 4MV here. Thunder Talks taking slightly less loot over towards this western side, a bit more of a split drop. I imagine Na'Vi's going to quickly get their way over towards Novo, but initial couple of shots here coming through from Influence Rage over towards Incilio as they pass on by.
Looking like Oscar Piastri there, getting across in the McLaren. Nice and quick, away out of there scot-free. with the vehicle as well, which is probably the major benefit, right, of dropping onto that location, grabbing that vehicle, folding it back into war. No early knocks coming on through. A little bit of damage over towards Thunder Talk. That was on that south side military island. And for now, it seems to have settled down. But I'm imagining that those bridge crossings will be treacherous, given there are 3 teams on there, and Influence Rage are around the mouth of that west side bridge.
Yeah, Influence Rage definitely holding people out here. With a northwest shift on the circle, though, you're likely to expect a lot of teams to start making their way on upwards. It does become a little bit congested over on that northwest side, especially with Everest, that larger feature over towards the north. You'll have to scale that if you want to cross on over, but more likely teams will move either west or east around it, which will cause those traffic jams. So teams want to get ahead of that or wrap over towards the north side of the map. So shooting range, Severny, which is currently controlled by Tongjiamao. The Vicious do have an outpost in Bruno's Inn, which is fairly interesting, actually.
Could come in clutch for them. We'll have to wait and see. Still early doors on this match, Blank, so we're not too far into this one. We're expecting teams who dropped out early to be out of their looting phase around now, looking to start to marshal their forces. The teams on the south, they're going to be a little bit longer, but no more than a minute. Thunder Talk actually already on the road on the east side, and they've gotten across that bridge nice and early. Incilio not in a position, after breaking out all the way towards Milta, by the way, to contest that one. Influence Rage still holding around that west side bridge, but now with Na'Vi and Novo and 4MV in the military base, it seems like they may only catch one team, but are they going to pull a CAG Osaka and stop 4MV dead in their tracks as they try to cross?
I think 4MV here, they'll likely wait a while. I mean, with this kind of circle, it actually encourages teams to leave those bridge camps quite early. It's sort of unnecessary to stick around here for too long. So I think for 4MV, if they just wait until stage 2, stage 3, they'll likely make it in scot-free, honestly. For Incilio, it is an interesting rotation that they go for. They weren't happy with any of the alternative drops over towards that western side. So instead, like you said, cut right across over towards Milta, which is a good position to play, although they were very unlooted by the time Thunder Talks made their way through past them. So they weren't able to put up any kind of fight in that location.
Meanwhile, over in Georgopol, teams are starting to move through. A very central location is sat on those crates of South George, right? Guild are there, Alpha 7 on that north side going to be overseeing it. DRX currently the team to be on top of Everest, but they are also with a duo down towards those crates, towards those bridges as well. So 2-2 split right now for DRX. Teams from that east side are going to start to move their way across, and in general, those crossings around Georgopol are going to be so important to get under control.
Especially the bridge crossings, like they are very, very important for a lot of squads in terms of getting across. D+ move over towards Rozhok, but RCB already makes a quick getaway over towards Box Compound on that northern side, just underneath shooting range, actually. You got Alpha 7 over towards the northwest. They gave a lot of ground, actually. They still have an outpost on the eastern side of North George here, which is absolutely fine and will work out for them. But I think for Alpha 7, they're trying to give space as much as possible. They know teams are going to start to cram in over towards that northeast side. It's going to get very tight, but I do think that Alpha 7 makes the right call here. I think that trying to hold all the way on that eastern edge too early could lead to some early knocks, which you don't want for Alpha 7. I think they're a team that can do a lot of work when it comes to that end game, and that's likely what they're shooting for here.
Rolling out with the Grand Prix here on McLaren. Just looking fancy with those buggies. I mean, I'm liking the design. The colours, pretty snazzy as well. I like it. Max only got the orange one, you know. He's behind.
That's the best one.
Now. Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think? Okay, fair enough. Well,
that's the cool one.
Okay, all right.
It's the faster one.
Do you think? Does orange make it go faster?
Yeah, if you believe it.
Okay, I believe you.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Oh, well. D+ Kia, they are making their way across, trying to go as fast as possible on the east side. Breaking across that central island, always a treacherous crossing, that central island blank. If you can't make it all the way across in one go, you're kind of stuck out in the open, you're really exposed. So getting across there, an important navigational point, doing so uncontested, highly valuable if you can enact it. So D plus Kia with their outpost, going to make that a little bit more secure, but they're not all across just yet. 4MV, they're moving in from that south side. They have gotten past that bridge influence range, allowed them to do so. Na'Vi, they're very late to leave the island. And actually, Incilio are still in Milta, so potential for trouble here on the east side.
Yeah, it's seriously awkward actually for Na'Vi, because this is technically the right time to be making a move for Na'Vi, but I don't think they expected the team to move all the way across to Milta. This is a hard read for them to make, so I think for Na'Vi moving out now, it's still smart, and we'll see if they can squeeze their way past Incilio without too much contest. They are taking the safe route, actually moving over towards that western side, cutting out sight lines on the east, so well done to Na'Vi. They make the right call, the right move. It's going to take slightly longer to move through this area on the beachhead, but it is safer at the end of the day. I think for Na'Vi, they want something a little bit safer after that last game, where they weren't able to get a huge amount of points off the back of it. Only 2 eliminations were found there for them. In the meantime, Team Spirit did move out of farm. They're over on the southeast edge of this one. It's not ideal, but again, the zone could move down towards the southeast, cutting more of that space. It's been a while since we've seen a Zaki circle.
We're going to find out in about 10 seconds, Blank, where the next circle's going to pop. The zone has to shrink first, and then we'll know where we go. Thunder Talk on the north side, they've swung through and have gotten into the shooting range. Hills, it's over towards Everest and South George here, with the hospital in as well. That west coast rotate, a straight shot for Point Donkey ID.
Yeah, it's a horrible place to be. A lot of field in this area, which is somewhat unplayable space. It makes it very hard to move through because it is so open. A lot of times when you move through in vehicles as well, because there's not a load of hills that you can hide behind, getting spray downs of the vehicles is very easy. So I do think that you've got to be fast on this western side. They do not want to be caught out while teams are set up already. They went at the right time whilst teams are all just migrating across inside their vehicles. But there is a spray coming through from Doc. Not much found off the back of it though, unfortunately.
No, they're just pushing Team Spirit a little bit further away, and actually, Narvalo's ready for it. Matic does get spotted. I think the Galaxy, yeah, there's no way you get Matic back up there, so Team Spirit playing on as 3. The first elimination actually to come through in this match, Blank, so we're up to 9.5 minutes before that's come on in. And a hard west shift is what has delivered it to us. Team Spirit do manage to find the ridge lines, though, out on the western side. And we'll be a little bit safer now for the time being. However, losing a player this early, always not ideal.
Yeah, having to squeeze through this area, and I mean, Team Spirit had to move very early, right? You know, they had to be up early in the morning to make that move under pressure later on in the game.
Top of Everest. DRX have been in this 2-2 split for a while, Blank. They have their other 2 out to the west side now, after moving them away from South George, and they will be fending off against a forward push from D plus Kia, 2 South Korean teams at the top of Everest there. Guild, they've been in these crates, in these warehouses, the south side of George for a while. They've transitioned over fairly successfully here, but there's a lot of open ground to their south now that's covered off from positions like Hospital, from Everest as well. So if Guild get the circle, they're going to be great. But once they have to move, not so lucky.
Incilio cuts out the member on the back line there for 4MV, which is very unfortunate news for them. Baron going down, it was impossible to get the res through. And again, for 4MV, it's a similar situation to Na'Vi. It's a very hard read. The reason Na'Vi gets away with it earlier is because they sort of preempt it, right? That is the typical rotate you want to make through on the beachhead, just in case. That really was just a just-in-case play. For 4MV, I don't think they were expecting anything like this. I think they thought that they were final team to get into the zone. Incilio being here is a big surprise to us and to them. For D+, though, they do move over towards the eastern side of Everest, getting 2 players up top. They might recall the rest of the squad, but it is Thunder Talks moving through, and it's actually a good thing they still have 2 players out on that eastern side. They're able to listen out for the vehicles and get some info over towards that area of the map.
and be that double threat. From the top of Everest, it's always difficult to get those spray downs as well, so having those low ground angles to assist, to make sure that the cover is never secure for Thundertalks moving around them, good stuff. But D plus Kia looking now to regroup. Thundertalks actually pushing Nolbu off of that low ground, so they need to be careful. Was that another player from 4MV getting caught? I think it was, unfortunately. So now it's just Doc and Reefus for 4MV to play on the southeast side. From their compound, they're right towards the edge. It's going to be really difficult to extract value out of this match to try and keep up the pace with the top of the tables.
At the moment, 4MV cosplaying as Fish because they are getting caught left, right, and center at the moment. It's a bit unfortunate for this team, but we saw it in the group stages. This is nothing new for us here. And 4MV going down to 2 players nice and early in the game, it's bad news for them. And I mean, for 4MV, the stocks weren't too high coming into PMGC anyway, but there is still 2 more days and the 4-1 matches to play after this one to kind of get some more points on the board and redeem themselves after these first couple of games. I mean, that first one on Sandhawk, not too bad, but it didn't feel massively explosive from that squad. It was more of a survival tactic from them. Here's the Vicious, though. They're currently over towards the northeast side of the map, making their way through from box compound. Now, every single team has made that crossing from the northern side and is roughly in the circle, albeit you still got Team Spirit as well as Incilio with a couple of players on the outside, but I think both of those teams will be making their way in shortly. If Kitsune can hold down this central location inside the field, it will be fantastic for the squad, but it's not a super secure position. You really do have to be on the ball over towards that area of the map.
Very difficult to play in with numbers reduced for Team Spirit playing as 3, all the harder. Vicious now pushing up towards the top of Everest and open up towards Nolbu. It's good for the first. Vicious moving on in. They haven't taken a knock yet either. There is that trade finally found, but it's 1 for 1 again on that engagement with the earlier flush they found. It's not looking too good for D plus Kia, but they are still struggling through. Fabian and Osal on the top of the high ground here. A nade over from Diminor to get them low, but there's that spray down. 2 players left for D plus Kia, but they're still giving it a good go.
It was equalized pretty quickly, and for D+, it was a real big struggle. Great nade comes from down the hill, and that will be D+ Kia going out on the top of Everest, taking a big old tumble down towards the bottom, and it certainly was a vicious play, but here's someone else who's got some talking to do. It is the Thundertalks looking to shout some nades down towards the Vicious. That looks to be pretty much on target.
Oh, gets one. That re-knock immediate. Diminor not getting taken down by it, but there's plenty more where that came from. Left in the back pocket. Thundertalk look for the spray downs, but Diminor has the answer. High, we're now with the nade cooking, looks to put the pressure on, continue that one going through, the flash is there, but Diminor once again fades the full knock. Unfortunately, the second time around, not so lucky. Circle shifts away, and Thundertalk make their way in. TJB, however, now in their way.
Nice old-fashioned M4 spray down coming through from the Thundertalks. Good initial play as well, assuming where they'd be rezzing off the backside of the cliff. Fantastic stuff from Thundertalks, but again, now you have to fend off versus Tongji Bao, who have moved in on towards that northeast side. For Thundertalks, it gets a little bit difficult. So it's our 2 PEL teams going head-to-head here.
From this northeast side, it's still all to play for access to this next circle. The shift goes down to the fields, by the way, Blank. On that southwest side, where Kitsune had the middle, now has neighbors in RCB. Team Spirit on a wide spread on that southwest edge. Na'Vi, Alpha 7, both potentially looking to push in there. So Team Spirit need to be careful, need to have their wits about them. Thundertalk in this fight, still trying to move around the edges of Everest here. Seemingly looking to try and slip around the side of TJB, not take this fight head on.
I mean, stage 4, it hurts, and I don't really think you can be taking a fight with Tongji Bao at the top of Everest. You have to move around, but I think even Thundertalks know that where they're going in the circle is somewhat no man's land. Let's see if they can push through and get the battering ram going versus 4MV on Doc and Reefus, as well as Rage. Couple of roll downs, though, over towards RCB, and Alpha 7 start things off strong.
Hopefully he's on the wet weather tyres, because he has got a blood trail or a line behind them. One flush goes through over towards Alpha 7. That is going to leave them with a second going down. RCB, sure, they're swept aside, but Alpha 7 now under pressure from those off angles. Na'Vi are behind them. Team Spirit are ahead of them, or at least Kitsune is, rather, in this central field position. The smokes are starting to bloom. With McGrellan down, keeping 4 players up, 3 players up, rather, is the priority for Alpha 7.
It's through it, find those shots. I mean, Na'Vi also has eyes over towards this. This is not an ideal spot for Alpha 7. They can make it work, certainly. Insilia, though, still sending those shots, ringing out over towards the eastern side. They have had a lot of impact on this game, despite having a very late start into this one, John. Thunderdogs sat down in the grass. Themselves alive as long as possible. 4 and V over towards their north side, but equally not in a great spot.